We welcome you inside our News Channel 9 studios here in Syracuse for our draft day preview show on the Orange. I'm Stephen Fonte, joined by our entire News Channel 9 sports team. Mario Sacco, Maddie Mustian. We cover Syracuse football on the TV side of things, and Mike McAllister is the publisher of QStation.com. He does a great job covering the Orange for his readers online as part of 24/7 Sports. This is a nice change of pace for all of us. We've been talking Cuse basketball and the coaching change nonstop for what feels like months now. But we're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking football. And Maddie, I'm going to start with you. You covered the actual pro day for us. What stood out to you?
I think that, having all the teams there after such a down season for Syracuse football was, I think, a little bit refreshing to see that everyone's still interested and kind of believing in what Fran Brown has created at Syracuse. But Dan Villari was one of the people that kind of stood out to me in his three-cone drill. He performed better than any of the other tight ends in the combine. And, of course, I think the one thing that's kind of going for him in the draft is that he also signed with Tommy DeVito's agent. So I think that maybe hopefully they'll be able to work some Italian magic on draft day for him.
Last year, Mario, we were talking a lot of big names, right? Rondé Gadsden, Kyle McCord, LaQuinn Allen. This year, the biggest name is a punter.
Yeah, he's got a heck of a boot in Jack Stonehouse, and that lineage of the Stonehouse name, if you've heard it before, his dad was a punter for the New York Giants, his cousin in the NFL, Ryan Stonehouse. His mother was a soccer player at UCLA, so he's hoping to be the next one to make it, so to say, in professionally.
Mike, last year, again, it was a big class from Syracuse that we expected to get drafted or at least have a good shot of making it in the NFL. This year, not so much. Which one's the outlier? Which one do you think moving forward will be the exception to the rule? That Syracuse has a bunch of guys in a class, or the fact that this year there's really only a couple that we think might be able to stick at the next level?
If this thing goes the way that Fran Brown is expecting, that Syracuse fans are expecting, this year's going to be the outlier. And last year, when you had several prospects that were expected to go, and it was more so which round are they going, how high could they go, could you get multiple first-round draft picks? There was some discussion if Kyle McCord was getting some buzz and all of that. That's going to be more the norm, I think, if this thing is going the way that everyone wants it to. Now, if they revert back to kind of being a bubble bowl team year after year, then this year, unfortunately, is going to be more what you see year in and year out.
You're a recruiting expert. How much does it matter to kids, juniors, seniors in high school? How many guys are in the NFL from a particular school? Does it matter?
It does, because players are looking at schools as the opportunity to go to the next level, to get an opportunity to play at the professional ranks. And you hear that a lot, especially with some of the waters that Syracuse is swimming in now with the 4- and 5-star prospects. You hear that a lot when they're talking about some of these SEC schools that they're competing with, right? That, hey, I could go to Alabama. They've sent 14 wide receivers in the last 8 years to the NFL, and you look back at some of the teams that they've had where they've got 3 or 4 first-round draft picks in their wide receiver room. Ohio State, similar with their quarterbacks and wide receivers and running backs. That stuff matters, and the more that Syracuse can get players into the NFL and getting high draft picks, regardless of the success that they have at the next level, just that opportunity makes an impact.
And Steve, you saw it bringing those guys back on campus. Donovan Darius back on campus, Dwight Freeney, Keith Bullock, guys that have had that experience, bringing them back, instilling them back into the program, and saying, these are the guys that got there, and this is what it takes.
Now, since we brought up last year's class, who do we think has the highest ceiling? And Maddie, I'll come to you on this one. I think we all probably believe Rondé Gadsden is kind of next level right now based on the rookie season he had. Aside from OG, who's got the highest ceiling from last year's class, do you think, at the next level?
I think LaQuinn Allen for me. I mean, obviously we kind of see the work ethic, but also he had a lot of opportunity in Jacksonville. He had 23 carries, 10 receptions in a Jaguars defense that kind of has a lot of guys that they like to go to regularly. So to be able to have that opportunity, he also got some reps in that postseason game, which I think shows that they have not only a lot of faith in him, but he's been showing a lot of potential, for hopefully the next couple of years to come, whether it's at Jacksonville or elsewhere.
In Jacksonville, one of their running backs just moved on, so maybe LaQuinn moves up on the depth chart.
That's a good point. Let's get back to the punter position here. And you look over the years at Sterling Hoffrichter, right? Riley Dixon, he's at
he's still in the
10-year
He's still making
NFL
millions
career.
of dollars right now.
Nolan Cooney was in the NFL. We joke about it, Mike, that Syracuse's punter
You.
Is there some truth to it, though?
Absolutely. I don't think you could go across the country and find another school that has had as many punters drafted and gotten a long look in the NFL as what Syracuse has, especially recently. And Jack Stonehouse may end up being the best prospect out of all of them, all things considered. And that's saying something when you have a Riley Dixon, as we just mentioned, that's been in the league for a decade. It's kind of weird to have your best pro prospect be a punter, and the guarantee that those players are drafted because they're specialists is not there. But regardless, he's going to get a shot. He'll get an undrafted free agent opportunity, even if he's not drafted. And I expect we'll see him kicking on Sundays next year.
Yeah. So as we said, Jack Stonehouse is next in line there. What stands out to you about this young man?
Well, first off, he's got a boom of a leg. 58 kicks in his career, 50-plus yards or more, and precise and pinpoint accuracy when it comes to try and pin teams in the 20. And that's what you're looking for in the NFL. You're looking to flip the field, and he was able to do that time after time. 58 kicks inside the 20-yard line throughout his career as well. And this is a guy that didn't start his career at Syracuse. Started his career at Mizzou and came here and did nothing but shine. And you knew right from the get-go he was going to be special.
Maddie, you had a chance to talk with him following his pro day workout. Anything stand out to you about that conversation, or how he feels as though the process is going for him?
I mean, you talked to him, and he was one of the leaders, too, that kind of Fran Brown picked at the beginning of the season to, go to ACC Media Day to, represent the football team. He is such a mature young man, and he obviously has the experience with his family, with, Riley Dixon. He knows what he's getting himself into, and I think that he is able to have conversations, with either the people in his life, whether it's teams, whether it's his agent, and he knows exactly what he needs to be working on in order to be getting those opportunities and hopefully, hear his name come the NFL draft.
All right, let's hear from Jack Stonehouse now. Here's a portion of what he had to say following his pro day workout.
Just being able to get to experience the East-West game, the Combine, and then now this, just getting in front of coaches, getting in front of teams, and just showcasing what I can do is pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, right? Everyone's fighting for the same thing. So, I mean, really taking your workouts and your practices and making sure that you're going out there with the right mindset, saying, okay, this is going to help me get towards my next goal. So, a lot of people doing the same thing that you're doing. You just have to go out there and try to do it one step better. I think making my B-ball more serviceable is something that I really tried to make my punting better. So going out there and saying okay, maybe it's not my A ball, it's not the best ball that I've hit, but it's still going 45 yards, directionally sound, maybe out of bounds. So just being able to go out there, feel comfortable, and say, okay, if it's not going to be your best ball, it's still going to be okay.
Jack Stonehouse is projected to be a day 3 selection. He's a top 5 punter in this year's class. Another position group that's had a lot of success at the next level from Syracuse, defensive back. There are a number of corners and safeties in the NFL right now from the Orange.
Yeah, Cisco, you got Ife Malifalu, Garrett Williams, and guys making a name for themselves last year. Elijah Clark-Cinco, he was the hustle play that you saw around the NFL last year, chasing down a guy, stripping him, and so it's a position that Syracuse in the past has had success with, and a couple of guys hopefully this year can maybe crack a roster and get their way in through, that way.
Mike, when you look at the current SU roster, do you see any pros at that position, at defensive back? Is Demetrius Samuel, for instance, is he a pro in your mind?
He is, but I think the guy that's not being discussed enough as a potential future pro is Chris Peel. I thought he was outstanding this past season. He doesn't get a lot of buzz because the interception numbers aren't there. He just locks people down. And I think the combination of him and Samuel has the potential to be one of the best in the ACC, maybe one of the best in the country. They unfortunately were overshadowed by how inept the offense was, and you keep putting a defense out there, regardless of how good they are, eventually it's going to crack. And that's pretty much what happened this past year. But I think Chris Peel's really good. I think both of them will end up playing on Sundays.
What about this draft class? Deuce on Devin Grant, do either of those guys have a shot, not necessarily to be drafted, but to make it at the next level?
They have a shot, and I point to Elijah Clark that you just mentioned as a prime example. I didn't think he was going to get drafted. No. I thought he'd have a shot to be into camp, but would probably spend a couple years on a practice squad, and then we wouldn't hear from him. And he ended up being out there during game days and making some plays, and has certainly, showcased himself well to the Dallas Cowboy fan base and coaching staff. And so he's got a potential future there with the Cowboys. These guys have as much, if not more, talent than what Elijah Clark does. They absolutely could follow a similar route.
All right, Maddie, you spoke with both Devin Grant and Deuce Chestnut after their workouts. Anything stand out to you from those conversations?
Yeah, I think that, after following last season, where everyone kind of hoped to maybe have a better season, be able to get, a little bit more stat padding going into, obviously their final season in college. I think they're both a little bit disappointed to see how that went, and they were both saying that the off-season training that they had done, between the end of last season to pro day was so crucial to be able to, work with people who have trained, people who have gone, into the league. I talked with Devin Grant's dad, and he was, just saying how important this is to Devin. He's his dad's only son. They drove up from New York City and back in one day just to watch him in the pouring rain. So there's a lot of heart there, and Deuce said too, he's doing it for Camden back home, which I think, gives them a little bit more spirit heading into pro day or into the draft.
All right, let's hear from those two guys now, Devin Grant and Deuce Chestnut.
It's kind of just been the same as every off season, just going to a spot where you're just working out hard, keeping your head down. You're working out over 2 months for one day, so it's what we've been doing my whole life, and just getting ready in the off season and preparing for the big day. Whatever it is, honestly, I'm a guy that can do everything. So whether they want me to come be a ball hawk in the back end, come be a run fitter, I could do it all. So I'm just gonna be a guy that bring energy, whether that's just being a guy that's supporting or a guy that's actually making a play. So that's what I bring.
It's a blessing to be out here, be healthy and be able to perform and show the world what I can do, to be honest with you. I felt like I did good. I'm happy. A little minor stuff that I can critique, but at the end of the day, I'm just happy to be out there and just show my skills and what I can do. I felt great. I felt like I ran fast, drill work, that's something that I do on a regular. So just feel good about it. I feel like I'll definitely, whatever team is, takes a chance on me, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to put my head down and grind, and, I'm a tall DB with great ball skills and have good twitch, a little fast, so you're getting a dog. I just want to let all 32 teams know that. Whether it's corner, nickel, safety, I'm versatile. That's the good thing about it. So wherever they're willing to put me, hey, coach, I'm there. I'm there. They can even tell me to snap. I'll go to be a long snapper. I'm joking, by the way. But
if either of those two guys gets picked, it would be late in the draft. Most likely they will be undrafted free agents. And as you pointed out, Mario, as we were listening to that sound, both these guys are coming off of injuries.
Yeah, and great stories to overcome. Deuce battled injuries. Devin Grant, it seems like he was hurt every other play last season. But to be healthy and try and crack an NFL roster, likely not picked, but that doesn't mean, you get those rookie deals and try and make it from there and go, that route.
All right, we do need to take a timeout, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we're going to talk about the current SU roster and next year's team, including talk about the quarterback position. That's next when Draft Day Preview returns right after this. Welcome back to our Draft Day Preview show on the Orange. We're going to transition from the 2026 NFL draft class to the 2026 college football season. And some big news around here the last few days. Star wide receiver Calvin Russell, 5-star recruit, Mike, significant injury, and it looks like he's going to be out for a very long time.
Yeah, his season is certainly in doubt how much he's able to play, and obviously it's a big blow whenever you have a 5-star player coming in. The talent is there, hence the high rating. But even more than that, if you kind of project how this impacts future recruiting, when you have an elite player come in, he performs well, that shows other elite recruits, hey, I can go to Syracuse and get the attention and the production and all of those things, and it becomes more of a destination for some of those other guys. When he goes out with an injury, and if he's not able to play right away, that impacts the ability to have that sort of impact on other recruits. So certainly a big blow there.
And there's no doubt, I think he was going to play right away.
He was going to play a lot.
This guy was a flat-out stud in high school. 14 touchdowns last season. He played kind of the hybrid at quarterback and wide receiver. But if you watched that state championship game, the performance he put on, over 150 yards, had over 6 receptions in that game. He was flat-out amazing. And a big, tall target that Syracuse has been missing since the, Steve Ishmael, the Amba Etatawa days where they could kind of just throw it up and go get the football. He's that type of guy, and they're going to be solely missing him next season, depending on how long that injury is.
Well, and even too in the first couple of days of spring practice so far, we were talking to him and the transition from playing on the basketball team and ending their season to quickly turning around and trying to figure out what does this offense look like. I mean, he was one of the guys that was consistently catching passes, whether it be from a Steve Angeli or some of the other quarterbacks that they brought in. Whereas, some of those guys in the first couple of days of practice, they're trying to still figure out connections, and so there aren't a ton of catches. He was one of the guys that was consistently, whether it was making plays or just catching balls, he was one of the guys that was doing that efficiently.
Just to piggyback off, think about everything we just said. He was recently on the basketball team. He played quarterback and wide receiver in the state championship game, and then was one of the top wide receivers in his very first spring practice. That tells you he's just an elite level athlete that, frankly, is really difficult to replace.
That's all within about 4 months.
Yeah. That's the other impressive part of it.
That's what makes it even more impressive.
And he's still supposed to be in high school.
Yeah, right. And to that point, too, you look at the wide receiver room now, Mike, it's a deep room. There's talent, there's athleticism, but it's relatively unproven and it's relatively young as well.
It is. Now, he's part of that because he's unproven at this level and he is young. But the good thing is you do have other players there. You have Cole Weaver coming in from the transfer portal, Matt Outen. You've got other players that you've brought in through transfer portal, former highly regarded recruits that are looking for that opportunity. You've got returning guys, the Boobie Johnsons and the Darian Williams, Tyshawn Russell, those types of guys that are coming back. So I feel like they feel pretty good about it. And the other thing I think, the player that gets forgotten is another highly regarded recruit, 4-star Amari Goff. Yeah. He isn't really discussed much, and he's going to be on the team. So does he step into that Calvin Russell type role with him potentially out?
And you also have Amari Hatcher coming back from injury, a guy that showed some signs of being able to be that guy that you could throw the football to, but it's all going to depend on how he comes back from his injury as well.
And this team, of course, knows all about injuries because you look back at last year, they, of course, went 3-9. The big blow was the injury to Steve Angeli. That aside, Mario, what do you think was the biggest reason for 3-9 last year, aside from Angeli? Because that wasn't the only reason why things went south. Yeah,
but it was about 90% of it, and that carried over to the offense not being able to do anything because it was a spin the wheel and whoever was your quarterback it would land on last year. And that turn left the defense on the field time and time again. And those two things combined led to that 3-9 record, Steve.
Mike, I'm coming back to you here with the quarterback room. So, Fran Brown said, I'm not going to let that happen again. They felt like they didn't have a capable backup, as we saw, and once he went down, the season went south. Tell us about the quarterback room now. So you've got Steve Angeli. He's the starter, right? Who's behind him? Who should we be on the lookout for?
Amari Odom is the big name, I think. He comes in as one of the better transfer portal quarterbacks, and I think a lot of people were surprised that he picked Syracuse knowing that Angeli is here. But he said during the process that the coaches said, you've got an opportunity to win this job, regardless of the health of Angeli, even if he's fully healthy. I think he is good enough to push Angeli. Obviously, Angeli would still be the favorite, but if he goes out, I feel like you're in a much better spot because he's there. You've still got Flaherty on the roster. He'll be another year in. You've got the kid from Georgetown that came in that was throwing passes during pro day. He looked pretty solid. A lot of people on social media were pretty impressed with his arm, and they've got talent there. They're in a much better position, I think, than what they were last year.
Steve Angeli, of course, returning from that Achilles injury. Maddie, I know you had a chance to watch him throw the other day at practice. How did he look?
He looked good. You can tell that he is, obviously they're being cautious about how much he's really doing in camp so far, and he is ready to get out there and go full throttle. But two, with him, we were talking to him after practice, and I think that time on the sidelines to kind of really take in the offense in depth was crucial, especially to, coming into this year as, the quote-unquote starter. To be able to really know that offense in and out and see what went wrong last year too. It was really beneficial to him. You can just tell he is absolutely gnawing at the enclosure to get out and go full blow.
And we recently heard from both Steve Angeli and Fran Brown about how he's doing, about his health. Let's hear from both of those guys right now.
Yeah, so first things first, I know everyone's been asking about how I'm doing, where I'm at in rehab. Just want to let you guys know I'm doing great, progressing really well, feeling great about everything. I could go right now if I wanted to. Just Coach Fran, everyone's taking care of me. When it's time to play, real ball and everything matters, our first game, I'll be good to go. I'm really blessed to be here at Syracuse with Coach Fran. Everyone that's been here, my teammates, the athletic training staff, the strength staff, just a lot of great people that are invested in me. And, when you're kind of at your lowest moment, there's a lot of people that help you get back up. And, I'm unbelievable and blessed to be here. It definitely helps seeing the game from a different perspective. Being able to sit there on the sideline is not something that me as a competitor I want to do, but, it was just the way that my path was going. And, I was able to kind of take a step back, learn a lot from it, see the game from a different perspective. Yeah, it's really hard when you're not able to be out there in between the white lines and, going to battle and going to war with your brothers. That's kind of the hardest thing for me. I'm a competitor, and the reason I do it is for the people around me, so it's tough when you're not able to fully participate in what's going on. But for me, the next step is just finding any way I can get involved and, kind of assuming a different role.
If anybody go around him, including one of y'all, you'll never ever come back again. Players, coaches, myself included. So we just stand away from him, keeping him off limits. He don't do anything. Everything with him right now on air until he's 100%. So just doing it that way. He's gonna be ready when it's time to get back out there. He'll be ready this summer, but I mean, he could go now if you let him go and let them do it. But I just don't want to chance anything or do anything. I want to do what's best for the S. So we're going to wait, make sure he'll be straight. But he'll be fine, though.
Yeah, I think to build off where we left off, being able to continue to push the ball downfield, be aggressive in the pass game, and then continue to complement it with the run. And, just be able to kind of have every facet of offense in our back pocket to be able to pull out whenever we need it, continue to be great situational masters. And our goal is to be the #1 offense in the country. I'm really blessed to have, my family at Syracuse, my family back in Jersey, and everyone that's kind of been along for my journey of playing football all throughout college. And it's great to know that there's people that care about you and they're able to come help you when you're at your lowest moment.
We talk about the personnel heading into next season from a player perspective. We should touch on the coaching changes as well. Essentially a whole new defensive staff led by new defensive coordinator Vince Karras.
He comes in and had one of the best defenses in the country for the last couple of years from Toledo, and he came in as someone that was very highly respected, and I think people were surprised that Syracuse was able to get him. He was rumored to be involved with several other Power 4 schools that were trying to bring him on because of how respected he is and how productive his defenses have been. He brings a couple of players over from that Toledo squad that can help with the culture and the scheme fit and bring some other players up to par and get ready to go on that front. But this spring is so critical for them as you get all those new coaches with all their new techniques and styles and a brand new system. That's why this spring season is really important for this group.
You talk about Vince Karras, and all you got to do is mention the Karras name, and it's a proven winner in Division III football. His dad led Mount Union to more national titles than I have fingers on my hands right now. And Vince carried that on at Mount Union, then got his crack in Division I at Toledo, and as you mentioned, that defense flourished. But that's not the only changes of all the coordinators. Offensive line, you're replacing there. Defensive line, you're replacing as well. The secondary linebackers, a whole new coaching staff. You knew things had to change when you go 3-9, Steve.
Right, and you look at this as now year 3 under Fran Brown. He had a great amount of success year 1 with the 10 wins, and then last year the Angeli injury, and that was unfortunate. They only win 3 games. This is a really important year, Maddie, from a momentum standpoint, right? And NIL and everything. There was so much excitement with year 1. They kind of took a step back with year 2. They really need to get that momentum going again here going into year 3.
Well, I think when you look at it too, that first year, Fran, especially as a new head coach, was trying to just get his bearings and figure out what works, what doesn't work. Last year, you have that momentum from the first season, going to the second, you lose your quarterback. And now it's like all those promises that Fran had kind of made coming in. Year 3 is a big one to kind of live up to it. I mean, we saw it with Adrian Autry. Year 3, things don't pan out, and you could quote unquote cut ties. I don't think that they're going to be doing that. Whether the season goes awry or doesn't with Fran. But I think that year 3 is a big one too, and you have a lot of guys that have come in and really trusted in what Fran has been building here.
We can't get the basketball out of our head, because as you were talking, I was thinking about Jerry McNamara the other day saying you don't have to get it all the way right in year 1, but you better get it some of the way right, because you do. You need that momentum for the fan base, for the donors, for the player, just for the community at large. And this is a really big year for Fran Brown.
Yeah, it's a big year, and you look at the schedule, and it's shaping up to, obviously you don't know what teams are going to be from week 1 to week 7 in the season, but you got Notre Dame in the Dome. You add another ACC team into the mix, so it's not like you're going out and playing, an FCS school, so to say. So they have their work cut out, and it's going to be very challenging for Fran Brown to get that boat rolling back in the right direction.
Mike, I'm going to give you the last word here. This topic came up on our Orange Nation radio show the other day. I was asked, do you think Syracuse is a bowl team? I realize it's very, very early, but they went from 10 wins to 3. We know they got to get to 6 to get to a bowl game. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Is this a bowl team in 2026?
They haven't lost a game in 2026 yet, so we're off to a good start. Yeah, I'll say yes. I think they are, and they might be a game or two better than that. I even said going into last year, they could be as good as the previous team, but have fewer wins because of the schedule. That was obviously before the injury to the quarterback position. But I think they've done a good job at shoring up some areas that were weaknesses last year. I think they've improved from a coaching standpoint, right? Offensive line has been an issue for seemingly 2 decades at Syracuse, and they brought in a proven long-term NFL college coach in Juan Castillo to shore up that group. So I think the pieces are in place to do so. The biggest key for me is health. If they can keep everybody healthy, I think that the talent is there that they'll be playing in the postseason in some capacity.
And to bring this thing full circle now, we are out of time. Stay tuned with us for continuing NFL draft coverage leading up to round 1 on April 23rd. We appreciate you watching. For Mario, for Maddie, for Mike, I'm Stephen Fonte. This has been our draft day preview show on the Syracuse Orange. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again next time.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.